What would you do if a 5-year-old looked a judge in the eye and whispered, "I'm hungry," while you stood there holding the paper that could take away her home? That moment stopped everything. For Ethan Caldwell, a billionaire real estate mogul known for his ruthless evictions and bulletproof suits, it should have been just another case, another family, another line on a spreadsheet. But when little Ellie Cortez clutched her mother's skirt in the middle of a packed courtroom and asked if they were about to lose their house, something cracked inside him. What followed wasn't just a legal battle. It was a collision between profit and conscience, between corporate policy and human compassion. One man's past would resurface, a secret connection would be uncovered, and a decision made behind glass walls would ripple all the way into the heart of a yellow house fighting to stay standing. You think you know what you'd do in Ethan's place? But once you hear what really happened, you might ask yourself, would you give up your empire just to save a single family stick around? What's about to unfold may just change the way you see success, home, and the power of a second chance. How do you keep breathing when the ground beneath your feet is about to be sold to the highest bidder? That was the unspoken question hovering over Port Heights Municipal Court. The morning Ethan Caldwell walked in tailored charcoal, suit crisp reputation, even crisper. CEO of Stonebridge Properties, the man who built downtown Skyline, he usually delegated ugly details to an army of lawyers. Today was different. He wanted to see with his own eyes what an eviction actually looked like. The courtroom smelled of old varnish and colder verdicts. At the plaintiff's table, Stonebridge counsel shuffled files like casino dealers. On the opposite side, a single mother clutched a wrinkled folder as if it were a life jacket. Rachel Cortez, thin exhausted ponytail fraying, looked up the instant Ethan entered. Their eyes locked for a second, long enough for him to read panic and defiance flickering together. Then he noticed the children. Ava, 9, stood tall, trying to look unafraid for her sisters. Zoe, 7, chewed her lower lip until it turned white. Ellie, 5, buried her face in Rachel's skirt. Only her tiny fingers showed knotting and unknotting the cotton. They were dressed in second-hand coats too light for November. Judge Harris rapped his gavel. Case number 17-493, Stonebridge Properties versus Cortez. Rachel's lawyer was Rachel. She couldn't afford counsel. She rose, voice trembling yet clear. "Your Honor, I'm only asking for 30 more days. I have a new job at Port Heights General Hospital. My first paycheck arrives next month." 8 months of non-payment, Stonebridge counsel cut in. The company has shown more than reasonable patience. Ethan kept his face neutral, but something twisted inside him. 8 months. How had that slipped past him? Rachel opened her folder, hands shaking. "I sent 3 emails requesting a payment plan." Stonebridge never replied. She approached the bench and handed the judge printouts, timestamps glowing like warning beacons. Ethan leaned forward. Those emails had Stonebridge headers, sure enough. Counsel cleared his throat. "We have no record of," a soft voice floated across the room. "Ellie's. Mommy, are we going to lose our house?" Silence detonated. The gallery, mostly routine spectators and a bored local journalist, froze. Ellie's question dropped heavier than any legal argument. Even the stenographer's keys paused mid-click. Rachel knelt, arms around her daughter. "Shh, sweetheart." But Ellie's next words punched harder. "I'm hungry." The gavel didn't fall this time. It didn't need to. Ethan felt the blow in his ribs. He'd heard lies, threats, even sob stories. None of them sounded like this quiet, honest hunger. Judge Harris exhaled. "Ms. Cortez, the court acknowledges your documents. Unfortunately, state statute is explicit. Non-payment beyond 6 months constitutes grounds for eviction. The defendant must vacate within 10 days. Rachel's shoulders sagged. Zoe started to cry soundlessly. Ava set her jaw, blinking fast. Ethan's stomach lurched, an unfamiliar guilt rising like acid. Court adjourned. Counsel packed their folders. Ethan stayed seated, watching Rachel gather scattered worksheets, a broken backpack strap, a lunchbox that didn't look heavy enough to feed 3 kids. At the exit, the lone journalist whispered into her phone, live stream rolling. "Single mom of 3 gets evicted. CEO present." That could go viral in minutes. Ethan pushed from his seat. He hadn't drafted a script for this moment. He always had talking points, never feelings. But he heard himself say, "Miss Cortez, Rachel, may I speak with you?" She spun, eyes flashing. Why, so you can watch the fallout up close. He stalled. What did you say to someone you just helped crush? Behind her, Ellie stared at Ethan, head tilted. She wasn't angry, just baffled, as if asking, aren't grown-ups supposed to fix things? Rachel turned away. Come on, girls. We have boxes to find. Ethan watched them disappear through double doors, their footsteps small but deafening. Then he noticed Stonebridge Counsel waving him over with paperwork needing his signature, essentially the execution warrant. His pen hesitated. Counsel glanced up. Surprised CEOs don't hesitate. Outside winter bit through Ethan's coat. His chauffeur waited by the idling BMW, but Ethan dismissed him, choosing to walk the courthouse steps alone. Camera phones tracked him. A headline had begun to shape itself in real time. Back in Stonebridge's glass tower, the hallway lights seemed too bright. Ethan called for the Cortez file. It arrived within minutes, color-coded tabs, payment histories, legal memos. He skimmed. Rachel had impeccable records until 10 months ago. Same month, she'd undergone emergency surgery, appendicitis complications, 6-week recovery. The hospital discharge summary lay right there, unhighlighted, unread by anyone who mattered. 3 emails followed, each increasingly desperate, each perfectly polite, each unanswered. Ethan felt heat rise behind his ears. Who handles hardship requests? He barked into the intercom. His assistant's voice trembled. Accounts recovery, Mr. Patel's team. Get Chris Patel in here, now. Patel arrived confident until he saw the printouts. We follow company policy. No renegotiation after 90 days delinquent. Your policy? How many hardship requests go unanswered? Patel shrugged. We process thousands of accounts. Some slip. Slip? Ethan's voice cracked something it never did. A 5-year-old just asked a judge if she's losing her home because she's hungry. Patel's phone buzzed. He checked it, smirk fading. Sir, you might want to see this. He turned the screen. The journalist's live stream clip. Ellie's question was trending. Caption: billion-dollar landlord versus hungry kindergartner. Damage control alarms blared in Ethan's head. Investors would demand a swift, hardline response. That meant signing the eviction order, immediately showing discipline. He stared at Patel. Draft the final notice, he said, voice low. But leave it on my desk. He needed time. He never needed time. Night fell over Port Heights. Ethan drove himself to where he wasn't sure. The BMW wound through streets his maps knew only as color-coded zones. Finally, he arrived at Riverside Terrace. The yellow house looked smaller than the folder photo, corners peeling, but windows clean. On the porch light hung a hand-lettered sign, Welcome Home Girls. The warmth of it gutted him. Inside, silhouettes moved, Rachel packing, girls hovering. Ethan stayed at the curb. What was he doing here? A curtain flicked. Ava's silhouette spotted the strange man in a suit. She lifted a hand, not in greeting, but in challenge. Go away. Snow began to fall fine and sharp. Ethan turned the heater dial but didn't drive off. The eviction notice unsigned lay on the passenger seat, its envelope glowing ghost white under dashboard lights. It felt heavier than any skyscraper he'd ever financed. His phone chimed, board reminder, quarterly strategy session, 7 a.m. Agenda, item 1, aggressive asset recovery. He killed the alert. Through the windshield, he saw Ellie step onto the porch in bunny slippers, breath fogging. She hugged herself against the cold, then placed a crayon drawing into the mailbox. She tapped the metal lid twice, some secret ritual, before scurrying back inside. Ethan climbed out, heart pounding, and opened the mailbox. The drawing was simple: a bright yellow house, a maple tree with red leaves, 3 smiling girls in front, and a tall man in a gray suit standing beside them. Above, in chunky letters, please don't let our house be lonely. The E in lonely was written backward. Ethan folded the paper carefully as if it might break. Snowflakes melted on his eyelashes. He slid back into the BMW engine idling and stared at the eviction notice like it was a loaded gun. 10 minutes passed. 20. Finally, he switched off the engine and sat in darkness, street lamp, glinting on tear tracks he didn't know were there. Tomorrow he would be expected to crush 3 little girls out of their childhood home. Tonight something raw and unexpected cracked open inside him, the memory of sleeping on a sagging sofa while his own single mother worked double shifts, promising life would get better if they just held on. Ethan touched the unsigned notice. His pen felt 50 pounds. He laid it down. For the first time in a decade, Ethan Caldwell didn't know what the next move should be, and the not knowing terrified him more than any hostile takeover ever had. I'm truly sorry to pause our story here, but some moments deserve a deep breath before the storm continues. If you were standing in Ethan's shoes tonight, what would you do with that eviction notice? Have you ever seen a single decision split your heart from your career goals? Right now, when dawn peeled back, the last layer of night, Ethan Caldwell was still behind the wheel, Rachel's crayon drawing open on the console like a compass, pointing somewhere he'd never dared travel. He hadn't signed the eviction notice. Instead, he tucked it under the visor, an unexploded bomb inches from his head. One thought pulsed louder than the BMW's blinking dash. This isn't business anymore. His first stop wasn't Stonebridge headquarters. It was Riverside Terrace, where the yellow house looked smaller against a bruised pink sunrise. He slipped the drawing back into the mailbox, heart pounding like he'd just committed a crime, and maybe he had. A neighbor's dog barked. Blinds twitched. If Rachel saw him now, what would she even think? Ethan exhaled frost and pointed his car downtown, but a single headline exploded across his phone. Billion-dollar landlord faces backlash over hungry child eviction. The live stream clip from court had racked up 2 million views overnight. Investors were panicking. Board members were texting in all caps. Stonebridge's glass tower shimmered like ice when he stepped inside. The elevator ride felt slower than molasses. Floors ticked by with doomsday finality. On level 42, he found Daniel Harper, waiting arms, folded phone, crackling with board chatter. Damage control meeting, now Daniel hissed. Sinclair wants blood. Burke's already drafting a statement blaming clerical errors. Patel's department ignored hardship emails, Ethan shot back. We can't hide behind clerical errors. Daniel's eyebrows rose. Since when do you lead with conscience, Ethan? But there was no time for retorts. The boardroom doors swung open. Robert Sinclair, silver hair sharp enough to cut glass, launched into a tirade about stock prices and hostile press. Elaine Burke, impeccably poised, slid printed screenshots of the viral video across the table. Ethan didn't flinch. We failed a family that tried to negotiate in good faith. The public saw it. Pretending otherwise will torch Stonebridge faster than telling the truth. Robert slammed his palm. Truth is revenue. Sign the eviction, distance yourself, and we ride out the storm. Ethan reached into his briefcase and placed the unsigned notice in the center of the table. Silence crackled. The line we drew between numbers and lives ends here. I'm freezing all evictions involving minors until every hardship file is reviewed. Elaine's veneer cracked. You don't have authority to make unilateral policy. Then vote me out, Ethan said, pulse thundering. But no, the next headline will read, Board overthrows CEO for refusing to evict children. For a breathless second, no one spoke. Then Sinclair's lip curled. You're bluffing. Before Ethan could answer, a secretary burst in. Sir Media are in the lobby, Channel 5, Channel 8, independent streamers. They want a statement about the Cortez case. Robert wheeled on Ethan. This is on you. Let them up, Ethan told the secretary. I'll speak. Panic ricocheted around the table. Daniel caught Ethan's sleeve as the board erupted behind them. Go on camera and you'll be a martyr without a company. Maybe a company without a soul isn't worth owning, Ethan muttered, pulling free. But 15 floors below the elevator doors opened, not to journalists, but to Chris Patel, pacing like a trapped wolf. His tie was gone hair askew. The moment he saw Ethan, fury flared. Do you have any idea what you've done? You turned one delinquent account into a corporate grenade. You lit the fuse. You buried those emails. Patel's laugh was brittle. Orders came from the top, your 90-day rule. I just followed protocol. Ethan stepped closer. Protocol is changing. Patel's eyes narrowed. Good luck selling that to Wall Street. He shoved past, leaving the scent of panic behind. Outside news vans cluttered the curb. Microphones lunged. Questions fired. Ethan steadied himself and said 5 words he'd never rehearsed. Stonebridge takes full responsibility today. Gasps. Shutters clicked. He announced an immediate moratorium on family evictions and an internal review of all hardship requests. Reporters peppered him with follow-ups, but one cut through the din. Will the Cortez family still lose their home? Ethan hesitated, feeling the camera lights bake his skin. Not if I can help it. The words were out, irrevocable. Across town, Rachel watched the live feed on a thrift store TV while packing a box of children's books. Ava muted cartoons to listen. Zoe hugged Ellie, who kept repeating Mr. Suit said, "Help!" Rachel's throat tightened. Did she dare believe him? Hope shattered when her phone rang an unknown number. She answered, bracing. A male voice, oily and unhurried. "You really think a camera-happy CEO can save you? Miss a single payment, you're out media circus or not. And accidents happen to kids who play hero online." Click. The line died. Rachel's knees buckled. The box of books thudded to the floor. Ava darted over. "Mom, what's wrong?" Rachel forced a smile so fragile it could splinter. Just a wrong number, baby. But dread crawled up her spine. Back at Stonebridge, Ethan was ambushed in the hallway by Daniel phone screen glowing. "Investor call in 10 minutes. They're spooked." Before Ethan could answer, his cell buzzed unknown number, same area code as Riverside Terrace. He answered expecting Rachel. Instead, a disguised voice whispered, "Caldwell, back off the Cortez case, or those kids will learn what foreclosure really feels like." Static. Hang up. The hallway tilted. Threats against children. Ethan stormed into the security office, demanded to trace anything, but the call was masked. Fury licked his nerves. Someone inside Stonebridge was protecting profits at all costs. He took the stairs 2 at a time back to the boardroom. "We have a bigger problem," he announced, breathless. "Anonymous threats just hit me and presumably Rachel Cortez. If any board member is behind intimidation, I will bury them in court." Robert's eyes went sharp cold. "You're paranoid." "Try me," Ethan snarled. Daniel stepped between them. "Enough. Stockholders want a way out. Give us 30 days to craft a transition. The board will consider your moratorium. Keep pushing, and they'll push back harder." Ethan exhaled, remembering Ellie's backward E. 30 days might be exactly what Rachel needed, or exactly what Stonebridge needed to slice him out. Snow swirled outside the panoramic windows. From here, the city looked miniature houses like toys, easy to pick up, easy to throw away. Ethan clenched his fists. For the first time in his career, the playing field felt tilted against him, and he had no safety net but his own conscience. "I'm sorry to break the tension right here, but our story needs a pause before the next storm hits. But if you discovered someone on your own team might be threatening a family, how far would you go to stop them? And do you believe public pressure can really change a corporation's heart, or is it just another headline, soon forgotten?" It began with a drawing in a mailbox. It would end with a decision that would change not only one man's life, but a legacy. The 30-day moratorium Ethan Caldwell demanded had become a countdown one where every tick of the clock sounded like a warning. Stonebridge's board had cooled under public scrutiny, but Ethan knew better. Behind closed doors, they were sharpening their knives. All he had was a thin legal technicality, an irregularity in the Cortez property title, hidden deep in a decades-old chain of ownership. If that link held, he could freeze the eviction indefinitely. If it didn't, he would lose everything. Late one night in the stillness of his penthouse, Ethan sat under dim light reviewing faded documents. The Yellow House's title had been funneled through a dissolved holding company. That was enough. Maybe. He called Frank Mason his personal attorney, not Stonebridge's. "We file at 7 a.m. Sharp," he said. "Make sure the court can't ignore it." "What about the board?" Frank asked. "They'll either fight me," Ethan replied, "or follow me." But he already knew the answer. At 9 a.m., a special board meeting was called. Every shareholder was present. Robert Sinclair's voice cut the air like ice. "Ethan Caldwell has filed legal action against Stonebridge Properties," he announced, holding up the emergency motion like it was a betrayal. "He is sabotaging the very company he founded." Ethan stood slowly. "I'm not sabotaging anything. I'm correcting a mistake. A girl said she was hungry in court, and the world listened. I listened." Elaine Burke slammed her folder. "You're sacrificing this company for one family." Ethan looked around the room. "If that's what it takes to remember we're still human, then yes, I am." The vote was quick. 4-1. Ethan Caldwell was officially removed as CEO. He walked out of the boardroom without speaking the title he'd held for 20 years, slipping off his shoulders like a coat he no longer needed. But his motion worked. The court granted a full investigation into the Cortez property title. The eviction was suspended indefinitely. When he showed up at the yellow house that afternoon, Rachel was on the porch taping a box shut with trembling hands. She froze when she saw him. "Are you here to take the keys?" she asked quietly. "No," he said. "I'm here to tell you. You can stay." Her hands dropped. "What, the eviction's been halted? Legally. The house isn't going anywhere. Neither are you." Tears welled up in her eyes. She didn't move at first, just stood there letting it sink in. Then the front door burst open and Ava, Zoe, and Ellie ran outside. "Mom, what's happening?" Zoe asked. Rachel dropped to her knees. "We get to keep our home." The scream that came from Ellie was pure, unfiltered joy. "We're not moving, Mr. Suit saved us." She grabbed Ethan's hand without hesitation. Ava looked up at him. "Why did you change your mind?" Ethan knelt to meet her eyes. "Because I forgot what it meant to have a home, and your family reminded me." For the first time in months, Rachel smiled, not cautiously, but fully freely. "Do you want to stay for dinner?" He hesitated. "Do you have room?" "There's always room at a table like ours," she said. Over a simple meal of chicken soup and cornbread, Ethan listened to the girls chatter about school friendships, favorite books. For the first time in his adult life, he didn't feel like a man at the head of an empire. He felt like part of a family. Later that night, after the girls were tucked in, Rachel brought out mugs of tea. "You didn't have to do all this," she said, sitting beside him on the porch steps. "You lost your company." "I found something better," he said. "You, them, this life. I didn't know how much I needed it until it was almost gone." She looked at him for a long moment. "What happens now, I start again," he said. "Smaller, slower. But this time I do it right." He paused, then pulled a folded paper from his coat pocket. "I'd like to help you buy this house. No debt, no tricks, just yours. Officially." Rachel stared at the paper. "Why?" "Because no one should lose their home because the world stopped caring." She didn't cry this time. She just reached for his hand and held it. 6 months later, Ethan Caldwell no longer lived in a penthouse. He had sold his shares, started a nonprofit housing consultancy for struggling families, and moved into a modest apartment just 10 minutes from Riverside Terrace. On a bright spring morning, he stood in the yellow house's backyard holding a small box that meowed. Ellie ran out the back door. "Is that a birthday present?" Ethan smiled. "He needs a name." "I'll call him Blazer," she beamed. "Like your jacket." Ava and Zoe ran over to help. Rachel stepped onto the porch laughing. "You spoil them, I intend to," Ethan said. That afternoon, under string lights and laughter, surrounded by people who had once been strangers, Ethan realized something: the skyscrapers he built were hollow. But this little yellow house, this backyard, these 3 girls, this was solid. And that finally was enough. Before we end, let me ask you something from the heart. Would you risk your career to save a family's home if it meant rediscovering your own humanity? And do you think second chances come to those who earn them, or to those who are brave enough to ask for them? What did you think of Ethan and Rachel's story? If it moved you, please comment. Number 3 down below. If it wasn't quite there yet, comment number 1. And if it was just okay, number 2. We'd love to know where you're watching from. And if this touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and send a heart to help us bring more stories like this to life.